Hello everybody and welcome to the very latest CADS podcast. We're here tonight to talk about the chaotic match that we all witnessed yesterday. I really don't know how to explain it, I really don't know how to feel about it, but I'm with a couple of lovely gents who are going to tell me how they feel about it and everything they took away as well. So welcome to John first of all. Hey John, how you doing?
I'm fine, mate. Hello, everyone.
Hi, John.
And Austin,
Hi,
thank you again for joining us.
Hi, Stu. Hi, John.
All right, so we also do have another match to talk about. We've got the first leg of the RZ Alkmaar game. I'm told that is the correct way to say it. One of these is slightly more positive than the other, but I kind of came away a little bit disappointed from both. In fact, I was probably more disappointed by the Bournemouth game than I was the RZ game because we've got another leg to make it right. So, do you want to talk about RZ first or Bournemouth first?
Well, so chronologically, so I'll talk about AZ first.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
so.
do it. Okay, so the RZ Alkmaar game, I thought was played on a very poor pitch. I thought certain players let themselves down, including one of my young favourites. I thought that it was a disappointing game in pretty much every single aspect, and I thought we were lucky to come out with it just one goal down. Those are my thoughts. What were yours?
I thought, number one, I was disgusted with the performance. I mean, and bearing in mind that they had 8 days in preparation for this match. They had, most of the players were back, and it was high, regarded by all of us really that this was our most important game of the season, and to come up with a performance like that, which was so insipid, to have one shot on goal, I believe, and even that was arguably a mishit shot from Odebear, whatever his name is, right? It was, and yet again, the senior players in particular let the team down. I mean, that just a non-performance. It was just awful. I mean, you've got to have, I was trying to feel the desire, but there was no urgency in the performance. It was just so pathetic, and I've tended to, I tend to sit on the fence more, and I back Ange and stuff like that. I'm almost got to the point now where I'm thinking to myself, Ange, you've got to go. I mean, I would obviously I'll hang on to him until what happens on Thursday. But I think if we go out, I think what's the point of hanging on to him anymore? Personally,
Austin, what were your thoughts?
I'm very much with you, John. I've been staunch in my support of Ange, especially through the injuries. But last Thursday, I looked at that performance and I wanted the team to come out with a bit of passion, a bit of desire. But RZ were all over us. Berival, who I love, he made more mistakes in that first half than he's made all season. They were into us before we had time to turn, and we were awful. I just didn't see the desire in the side that I'd hoped for. And I ended up being really, really cheesed off, it has to be said. And that's an understatement because I might have sworn, which just Stuart knows I would never do on this channel.
Never do. I would certainly be careful now because we're also on Spotify now, everybody. So you do need to be extra careful. Berival, poor Berival. I thought he had the kind of game that we saw from him earlier in the season when he played against Galatasaray. Error strewn, just getting caught, overthinking, just slightly off the pace. It was a poor match, and I'm not even talking about that own goal. The own goal could have happened to anyone. That was a pure fluke. You couldn't do that again if you tried. So I'm not holding that against him. It was just the rest of the performance was pretty bad. But in his
Can I just
favour,
say something on the own goals?
Yeah, go on.
At the end of the match, Berival went up to the supporters and he went, sorry, and he got it. He knew that he had scored the own goal. And respect to him because he did the mature and responsible thing, and he apologised to the fans, which I thought was brilliant.
Also, I thought after that, obviously the huge disappointment scoring the own goal, I thought he became stronger as the game wore on. So credit to him for doing that, but not many players came through that game with any credit at all. I mean, it was just, it does make me feel, have they stopped playing for him, particularly the senior players, because it was just I was so upset. Look, I was looking forward to the game. We can, still get something pretty significant from this season. And then that came, and then that happened. We had all our players back, or most of them. I don't know. Very, very upset.
It's our last chance of winning something this season, and you'd think they'd have turned up for it, but they bloody didn't.
No, that's what's so.
Yeah, that was a really disappointing thing. I thought it was mainly the senior players that let others down. There was endeavour, at least from the youngsters, but honestly, it was a pretty poor performance. Not all around, but there was a lot of muck to be spread. Frankly, I think I in a way, right. And this is just my personal thought. In a way, I'm kind of glad that happened, because I've got a feeling now the players will be looking at this return leg and saying, "Well, we can't take this lightly." If we'd got a 1-0 win away and we'd emptied the return leg with that kind of mindset, we'd have been walked all over. But now we've got an opportunity to actually up our game and put it right. And I think we need that opportunity. It needs to happen, because the players let themselves down. And now they've got an opportunity to say, we're going to go out and show everybody who we really are. And not just that, we're ready for what they can throw at us, because we've seen what they can do. We've played them twice. They've had the better result at their home ground, and now they're back to ours. And if we put in the work properly, we should be able to win it. But you ain't going to get it for nothing. You've got to put the work in.
I'll be honest, Stuart. I'm actually not that confident. That they've got something to cling on to. Our performance yesterday wasn't particularly great. So what makes me think that we're going to be any better, on Thursday? Even the crowd, it feels like they've almost given up now. There's almost a resignation yesterday. I mean, I know we resurrected it in the end, but I'm just not confident. I do not think the way that the mindset of the players. I really hope I'm wrong. And and furthermore, if we do get through, and we should get through, but I'm not saying, then the likelihood we're going to play Frankfurt in the next round. What's the chances are we going to beat them? Because they're going to be harder than AZ, that's for sure.
On the upside, we do have players that are coming back that have got a bit more game time under the belt, so maybe, just maybe, that will help. Although Romero yesterday in the first half, I could have shot the bugger.
Well, there was some chat going on in the CADS group, and my thing with him, I personally speaking, I wouldn't play him now, right? Unless we really needed to, I wouldn't play him until the end of the season. I would refuse. Refuse him to go to Argentina, and if which I think they're within their rights to say, well, we still want to see him. And then if that was the case, I would turn around. I should turn around to the Argentina and say, well, if anything happens to him, with an injury or anything like that, then we are going to sue you to high heaven. And
we can't.
These countries don't.
We've got no control over players going to international games whatsoever.
No, but that's what I'm saying, Austin. I mean, I understand. If they, because the country can turn around and say yes, but we still want to see that player, right? But we can turn around. If they then, make him play, and he has a relapse or whatever it is, we'll say, right, we are going to see you to high heaven, because we've already told you he's hardly played a bloody game. Well, he's played one half of the game, just over one half of the game in 4 months or something like that. I mean, I'm fed up with the Romero situation. I have to be honest.
I agree with you.
You know, and I would get him out of the club and as soon as we get a suitable offer from probably Real Madrid, and that's it, and then let's start again.
Yeah, that's been my thinking for much of the season. Well, certainly recently, waiting for Real Madrid to come in. Certainly after I think Militao it was, who completely did his knee in a horrible injury. But the issue is Real Madrid have no history of spending big money on defenders, and they do have a history of waiting to pick up defenders on the free transfer. And he's only got a year and a bit left on his another 2 years, left on his contract after this season. So they've very good chance they will sit back and say, well, we're not going to spend big money for you. We will wait, and we will wait a couple of seasons. We'll live with what we got, which they're currently doing anyway. Unless they get a new manager, which is potentially going to happen because it sounds like Ancelotti might be leaving. Unless they get a new manager who comes in and says, I want that Cuti Romero guy in my side, I don't think they'll be spending the kind of money for him.
Whatever. As well, that's why I'm concerned. You know, when a player is like that, I just, you know, I just want him out of the club in many respects. I remember actually feeling a bit like that about. I don't remember when Vertonghen. There was a bit where it looked like he wanted out of the club, and I always remember we played Liverpool when Liverpool were going for the title. Before they'd won it, I think they beat us at Anfield 4-0 that day or something like that. And I always remember there was like video of the Tongan before the game, you know, looking like this kind of totally didn't care attitude. And I thought, I've had enough of this. Thankfully, he did turn it around. He became, you know, you know, he was very much, you know, he was a legend in many respects. Spurs fans in the end, so he did turn that around, but I don't know if that's going to be the case with Romero. I'll be honest, you know. Plus, at the end of the day, he's not been that great anyway. I mean, you know, he's got it within him, and he's shown it when he wears the blue and white of Argentina. What he's actually capable of, but you know.
Yeah, we've got Danso anyway. I'm impressed with Danso, and I think Danso and Van de Ven could actually form a decent partnership.
Well, he's solid, isn't he?
Van de Ven and Danso was a better partnership than Danso and Romero.
Yeah,
I thought it worked better. There was better balance to it.
Yeah,
yes, it did.
Well, after 15 seconds yesterday, I mean, I thought, bloody hell, you know.
Oh, be fair, it was 30 seconds.
It was
30 seconds, 24 seconds, I think it was, before his first screw up. I was like, this cannot be happening. Because, I mean, that should have been a goal.
Yeah.
It should have been a goal.
I mean, you know, look, listen, absolute credit to Bournemouth. I thought for them, until the end, they were mostly fantastic. Their first goal against us was great. The pass and the way he took it first time was fantastic. And I hate to say, the goal that was disallowed, because we didn't know it was offside, and it was offside. So, but I mean, I actually applauded the goal because it was such a great goal. It was a fantastic goal. You know, I mean, you know who I want to be our manager, and you know. Or some people will say that the way he didn't change the game at the end was, was not a good sign. But I mean, they were very good.
That Bournemouth goal reminded me of some of the goals we used to score when Ericsson, Dele Alli, and Dembele were in the side. Because we used to score goals where we swept the ball forward and it would get pass, and in, and Kane would score or someone would score. But,
I recommend, if you ever get the chance, is to watch the Tottenham Real Madrid game at Wembley when we beat them 3-1, and you look at that game.
Winks was amazing that game.
Winks, but also was Dele Alli. I think Dele Alli scored 2 goals and stuff. You know, I mean, I almost cry when I look at that team and the players that are in that team, and you know, I mean, look, we got some decent players in that team now, but they wouldn't have put in that performance on Thursday night that the players did the other night. It was, you know,
yeah,
just disgusting.
The two Real Madrid games.
You've kind of already moved us on to the Bournemouth game, so let's stick at Bournemouth.
Okay.
Let's quickly go through their goal, the actual ones that actually counted. The first one, it was a shoddy pass from Pedro Porro. No one really... Well, Spence was supposed to be backing him up and didn't, which was disappointing. He lost his guy, and it was Kerkez with probably the cross of the season. I've not seen a cross as good as that all season long.
Fantastic.
It was an absolute peach of a cross. And as you said, taken first time and hit really cleanly. I think if he hadn't hit it quite as well, there's a very good chance Vicario would have got to it, because right up to that point, Vicario was fantastic. He was so good. Almost all the way through the game. We definitely would have lost that game if we hadn't had someone in quite as good form as he is right now. Which, considering he's only really just come back from injury himself, says a lot about the man's character. The second goal, the Evan Nielsen one. Good finish, but, I mean, there was just... I mean, I think it was Danso lost him and could have done a bit better. But again, it was just a bit too easy. And then things kind of turned around and got better for us. We've got that goal that I still don't know whether it was a fluke or whether it was intended by Pat Madassar.
It was a cross.
I'm hoping it was intended. People tell me it was intended. People tell me he was looking for it. But every time I've seen a goal like that scored, in the history of my watching football, it's been an absolute fluke. No one's ever tried to do it from that angle like that before.
The thing is, though, if it was a fluke, I mean, from my end, because I'm at the other end of the pit of the state, the other end. So, to me, it looked like a fantastic goal. But I've seen it on television, obviously, and I'm thinking to myself, well, if he was trying to cross it, who was he crossing it to? So, what the only thing is, it can only have been a shot.
Yeah, that's what people keep telling me, but why would you try to shoot from there?
But it was because there was nobody in the bloody box that he could have passed.
Maybe just out of frustration he shanked it, but it was whatever. It went in very nicely and surprised the hell out of me, and I was happy to take it. I was talking to my mate. My mate's away. Was keeping him updated via WhatsApp, and I said, what looks like a massive slice of luck, Pat Matassar scores from a long way out. And he was like, we'll take the luck. I said, can we have a couple more bits of luck just like it, please? I would have taken some more. But then the goal that actually got us back into the game, lovely pass through from Maddison, set Sonny off, and he was one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper took him down. And then probably the cheekiest Tottenham Hotspur penalty I've seen in a very, very long time. I mean, it was basically a Panenka. It wasn't a Panenka.
Yeah,
it was just like a little chip.
I'd rather have had, I don't think it was a particularly good penalty because it wasn't that far from the goalkeeper, to be honest, and the goalkeeper could have easily it's my cat no, so look, it went in, thank God, but it wasn't his normal kind of penalty. I almost think it was taken with a bit of nerves on his side as well, because I don't think he hit it I don't think he hits it that well, personally speaking.
Oh, I think he meant that. I mean, I love Son.
I'm not sure he didn't mean it, but I don't think he hits it that well.
I don't know. Maybe he meant to Panenka it and just slightly squiffed it. Who knows? Okay. After that, we had a little bit of time left in the match. I honestly couldn't have told you who was more likely to win that match at that point. Now, I know a lot of people have been talking up Andoni Iraola as a potential Tottenham Hotspur manager in the future. I put this on the forum. I'm not sure I want a manager who's going to throw away a 2-goal lead like that. And, I mean, it was bad enough that we gave up a 2-goal lead at the start, but then if we'd had a manager that got us ahead like that and then conceded to, I wouldn't have been happy. The other thing is about Iraola. I think he's an excellent manager. I think he's an excellent young manager. I think he'll do very well in his career. But at the same time, before he becomes a Tottenham manager, or anyone becomes a Tottenham manager, I think we need to see how they cope with a packed fixture schedule, as in playing, European competitions and cup competitions and having that higher level of expectation. Because Ange at least came to us with a history of getting Celtic into Europe and playing, European football with them. And some relatively good football in Europe while he was there. Yeah, okay, they got stuffed by Real Madrid, but people will say they were fully in the game up until the point where it turned. And I don't think Antonio Iraola's got that in his locker just yet. He needs to demonstrate that before he can take the next big step up, I think. Which could well happen next season, because it looks like Bournemouth may well be on course for a European spot this season.
Well, can I ask
you why he would leave Bournemouth to come to Tottenham?
Yeah. And also, did Poch have those credentials when we took over at Tottenham?
He didn't, but I think we were looking. It was a slightly different set of expectations at that point. I mean, we were looking for someone to effectively rebuild the side and push us on. And European football, we were more looking to get into European football than compete in European football. If that makes any sense whatsoever.
Well, look, in one respect to it, it might not be an issue next season anyway. Because if we go out of the Europa League at any time soon, we certainly won't be having any European football next season. So whoever took over would have a year at least to bed in his ideas to the team. So the thing I said, and I said this previously, both him and Silva at Fulham. What I like is, I see two teams that are very well coached, and they're happy to adapt their tactics depending on who they're playing and stuff like that, which is definitely something was a criticism of Ange.
Yeah, I think there has been adaptation throughout the year. We've seen players slightly shifting mentality, slightly shifting position. Certainly, we're not playing as high a line as we used to because we've not been able to with the injured players. We used to have our midfielders inverting every single game. Now it's sometimes they play as wing backs, sometimes they play as inverted. So it's not quite as straightforward as people seem to think and complain about. I do think there's been more tactical variation than we saw last season. And I suspect Ange is still going to be tinkering a little bit to try and work out exactly how to get things right with the players. And remember, a lot of these players have been out injured for large chunks of the season and not been able to go through training and stuff with him. So he's not had that opportunity. That's just whether he's going to get that opportunity, I don't know.
Do you think the senior players are still with him?
I think overall they are. I think there may be one or two, but I suspect those one or two will probably end up leaving the club over the summer.
But we're talking about it here and now, aren't we? I mean, listen, I think I'm probably 90% sure now that whatever happens this season, Ange won't be our manager next season. Even if it was to go on and win the Europa League, I think, because I think
I don't know. I really don't know, because I was convinced earlier on in the season that Daniel Levy was going to sack Ange when we went on that run, a horrible run of losses. I was convinced the way we were going, we're down in 15th. I was absolutely sure if it had been any other manager, he'd have been out on his ear. And I think Levy looks at Ange and says, this is a guy that I can work with. This is a guy that can do what we need him to do. And so I'm going to stick with him.
Maybe he does, but there's two aspects to that, Stuart. One is, at the time of that run, I think even Levy realised that what with the injuries, etc. What else? If he got rid of him, who was he going to bring in? Because the ones he's probably more likely to look at that weren't available and almost certainly wouldn't be keen on coming to a club in such a mess with such an injured list in the middle of the season. And on top of that, now I think I think a large, I wouldn't say it's I would say, yeah, it is the majority, but not a huge majority. I think I've had enough of Ange and wanting him out of the club now, I think. And then even people like myself, who I wasn't quite so up. I certainly wouldn't be sorry to see him go now. I also, I mean, I tell you that. So I told you my son works for Arsenal, and he said that because he's somebody he works with, who there was his assistant last year. He left and gone to Birmingham now, and apparently he was saying that he couldn't. This I don't know the guy's name, but apparently he couldn't stand
Chris
Ange.
Davis, I think.
Yeah, well, apparently he couldn't stand him. So and apparently he's not he's quite he's not the nice guy that some people think that maybe he is. And I'm talking about Ange.
Well, that doesn't surprise me as much. I mean, yes, he's probably got a very good public persona, but he's probably also got a bit of a temper on him and is hard driving. I mean, somebody in his position probably has to be. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's a little bit more grumpy, a little bit more hard, a little bit tougher than we see in the press conferences.
Yeah. But as I said, I mean,
personally, I still want to see what an Ange Postecoglou third season looks like. This season is still not over. We've still got some way to go in terms of Europe. I think, sadly, and this is what I'm not very happy with, is I think we're now using the Premier League to prepare for European games. I'm not very happy about that. I would rather still be a little bit higher up the table and pushing for a European spot. But it is what it is. We are, frankly, where we deserve to be with the way things have gone and the way the season we've had. But there could be better things coming as long as this European campaign ends up. If we win the Europa League, this season would be looked at as a success, even with all the league struggles.
Of course, and that's why it's understandable. If he's using if he's using the Premier League more as a kind of a practice ground for what he wants to do, because without a shadow of a doubt, and we all say, obviously, Thursday is the most important game to date of the season, so it's only natural.
Yeah.
It's because not only will it give us, if we win it, it gives us a trophy, which gets one of those monkeys off our back. It also gets us into the Champions League.
Yeah. What do you think, Austin?
I think Sunday he used the team to give people minutes rather than actually trying to win the game, because I can't see any reason not to include Archie Gray, for example, in that team, because he's been, I think, as good as any player that we've got this season, and he doesn't seem to be flagging. He doesn't seem to be tired, so I think he used it to give Romero and Van der Vet time on the pitch to prepare them for Thursday, possibly.
Plus, I think he knew that Bergvall and who else didn't he play? And he played. They're going to be the ones that are going to play on Thursday. So he gave minutes to other players. I mean, look, Bentancur is suspended for Thursday night. So
we are going to need to talk about Bentancur. We're definitely going to need to talk about Bentancur.
Bang average.
What was
We're
that?
going to need to talk about both.
So Bentancur and Bissouma have been bang average this season, and they're such good players, but they just don't seem to be pulling it this year.
Well, I think Bissouma, this is his last season at Tottenham now. I think that's it. Bentancur, I'm not so sure. I mean, because he does produce it at times, but too many other times I think he's bang average, as Austin does. He's average. I mean, what's he done in the last two games? Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Well, yesterday there was some nice little bits from him, but it wasn't enough. There was a couple of nice little passes where he took the ball under difficult circumstances and passed it through, but it's just not enough. And frankly, the guy seems to be wanting to get sent off all the time. I mean, against AZ Alkmaar, he got booked, and then just 2 minutes later, he's shouting abuse at the referee, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're going to get yourself sent off, buddy. And it was just insane what he was doing. And then yesterday, again, got himself booked, and he was throwing himself into challenges with no regard of whether or not he could pick up another booking. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Bentancur because I think he's got such immense quality. I've said before, he looks like he could play the game in slippers, you know, and do it to a very high standard. He just looks that comfortable. But honestly, right now, unless he's going to take a step up, unless in mentality as much as anything, he's going to have to go. People saying, "Oh, he's going to get a new deal and Bissouma will be the one to go." Frankly, I think we need to let them both go and upgrade on both of them, which means a lot of work for our recruitment team because replacing two first-team players, first-team midfielders with high-quality replacements is going to be very, very difficult.
We've got Gray, haven't we? And hopefully, I'm hoping he gives him his chance in midfield this on Thursday night because Bentancur can't play. He's got enough full centre backs now if he wants to. He doesn't have to play Gray there. So let's have a look at him in midfield.
I would love to see a midfield of Gray and Bergvall, but also I'd like to have seen Højbjerg behind them because I think Højbjerg would have complemented.
Højbjerg's done. Højbjerg is toasted. He's done. He's cooked. He's out.
I know.
Yeah. I'd like to see Dembele, but it's not going to happen. Fully primed.
Well, I'd like to see Bissouma at the start of last season because I suddenly saw him and I thought wow, God, we've got a replacement for Dembele. He was really, really good, and it's just I can't remember now. Did he was off for a while last year? I know it was the African Cup of Nations. Did he have an injury or suspension?
He caught malaria while he was there.
No, but did he prior to that also have a suspension or something?
Oh, two or three.
Yeah, so since that point, he's come back and he's not been the same player, has he?
On the subject of recruitment, I saw a report today that Johan Lange might be under pressure because with regards to the Matisse Tell recruitment, both Daniel Levy and Ange had to get involved, whereas Lange had been supposed to be handling it. So what I read was that Lange is under threat of the chop.
Well, I've also heard that they wanted to get what's his name back, Paratici. Yeah, but I think he wants to. I think he's been sounded out by AC Milan or something apparently.
Yeah.
So the press tell it. So anyway, but whatever.
I think I prefer the transfer approach under Lange than I did under Paratici, because we just seem to buy ex-Juventus players. It's a really weird situation. Did they play for Juventus? Yes. Okay, we will sign them. They were the good ones. The rest, not sure about. But Lange, I think we've made some very good purchases under.
Is Lange the one that came from Aston Villa?
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think they were quite glad to get rid of him, weren't they?
Well, they kind of sidelined him because they brought in Monchi, who is probably the best talent spotter in Europe over the last 20 years. So, it's fair enough that he got sidelined. But even then, I think he was instrumental in bringing in players like Ollie Watkins and John Duran and, players like that who ended up being worth a considerable amount of money more. Where you look at Spurs and the players he's brought in, I think Dragusin was a Paratici recommendation because, again, ex-Juventus. But apart from that, we've signed Archie Gray, Berrival, Solanke, Danso. Tell we'll wait and see what happens there. Audebert, I think, is now showing his qualities again, and kind of reminding us what he can do, because, frankly, I'd forgotten. It's been so long since I'd seen him play. There's very few misses in his CV at Tottenham.
Who was that?
Audebert.
Oh, right, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Came in, played a few games, got injured, I think, in the Newcastle game, and we didn't see him for 4 or 5 months after that.
Well,
He
I
actually
know.
looks like a big.
Ange really talks him up, doesn't he? And he says he thinks there's a lot to come. And he offers us something different. But again, a bit like Tell, and a bit like Bergerville was at the start of the season, and they need to adjust themselves to, you know, the what the Premier League's all about and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a bit weak. They're both a bit weak at the moment, if you ask me. Tell more so than Odebear.
Odebear, I think. Well, Odebear's played for Burnley last season. He's played for us now. He certainly should be more in tune with the requirements of English football. I'm on Tell. I still think there's an awful lot of quality there. There's still an awful lot of talent there. But how are we going to get it out of him is the issue. We're not going to be taking chances and playing him in important Europa League matches. The only games he's going to get are games in the Premier League. We're not exactly fighting for our Premier League survival. I don't think there's any chance of us going down now, although we are still 6 points off guaranteed safety. I don't think there's any chance that any of those bottom clubs are picking up another 17 points. It would be nuts to try and for that to happen. But Tell, I think, is a good player who probably needs 6 months, like Berival did, to
He also
acclimatise the
needs
league,
not
and
to
he's
be
not going to
playing
get
through
that.
the middle. They're playing him through the middle, and he's not a centre forward. He's a wide player that comes inside to score goals.
Well, Ange has already
Centre
alluded to
forward
that
for France
fact, doesn't he?
youth teams.
Yeah,
France,
Yeah, but
the
I mean,
France under 21s,
they've all
etc. He
alluded.
plays central.
Yeah, but they've alluded. I think Ange has alluded to the fact that he really is best as a wide player, and that and obviously they haven't been able to do that yet with the injuries that we've had. Which brings me on to one other thing: is the look. I know it's early days, and I wasn't expecting Solanke to play yesterday, but in the two games he's actually played since he's come back, he's been pretty anonymous. It really, in truth, he's done very little.
Solanke.
Thank you.
I think Solanke's one of those guys. It's an unusual thing because all the football I saw from Ange before, his side play in a style where the centre forward doesn't really get involved very much. He's there to knock in the goals. I mean, Furuhashi at Celtic, you look back to when he was at Brisbane Roar, his strikers are there to score goals, and pretty much that's about it. And instead, we've got Brendan Johnson doing that, and we've got Dominic Solanke, who's putting in all the hard donkey work, putting in the hard yards, but he's not really getting in positions to take shots and score goals. It's kind of a weird situation for him.
Well, as I've seen, I said in a game against AZ and yesterday, I mean, it was hardly any. Well, you could say it wasn't his fault, but the ball hardly ever went to him. So there was hardly any kind of hold up play and bringing other people in and all that, which is what you want to see from him if he's not scoring. But he's very good at holding the ball up and bringing other players in. And that hasn't happened. Look, of course he's coming back. He's been off for a while and stuff like that. So you've got to make allowances and all that. I just hope he finds his feet again in the AZ game on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think we may well see Tell playing wide. Sorry, Austin, go on.
No, I just said a hat trick would be good from Dom.
Yeah, we'll take a hat trick from anyone. We'll take a hat trick, absolutely.
3-own goal hat trick would be very nice.
In terms of Tell for the future, I don't think he's going to sign for the club long term unless he's getting football. I don't think he's going to sign unless he's told this player is going to be stepping aside and you get to step into their shoes. Whether that's Sonny, whether they're going to say next season Sonny will be playing less football and you're going to be playing wide left, which is where he played a lot of football for Bayern Munich, where he's also played for, I think he was playing there for Rennes, I think he's played there for the France under 18s, under 19s, under 21s. But he does play through the centre did play through the centre for those teams as well. Or whether that's Dominic Solanke, I don't see it being Dominic Solanke. He's 28 years old. He's in the prime of his career, frankly, and he has got a fairly good record of scoring goals. Even if this season's a little bit lower, Austin, looks like you want to say something.
I think if Tell played alongside Solanke, playing wide left, I think we'd see a much better version, and it would give Solanke someone to feed. I just think it would be a more natural partnership than Solanke and Son. Son, I think, is past his best. Tell has got pace, he's got skill, and I think we're yet to see the best of him. So I'd like to see him alongside Solanke.
Without doubt, we haven't seen the best of him. And I would just like, between now and the end of the season, before we make up our mind, if he decides he'd like to stay, but and I somehow, and I have question marks over that, but I would like to see use what's left of the season to him to be played in his natural position, and see if there really is a player.
Yeah.
Before we start committing ourselves to £50 million on him, because I'm not sure. I'm not giving up on him, but I'm not sure about him either. That's all I'm saying. It's a lot of money. I mean, and it does make you. I mean, I'm sort of glad in a way, because originally, don't forget, we originally offered the money up front for him, and he didn't want to do that. And in a way, I'm glad that that's happened now, because I'd rather see him before we make that commitment. You know.
I agree with you there.
It does give him the chance to effectively back out and go sign for someone else, or even just return to Bayern Munich if he doesn't feel it's working out here. So again, I think he needs 6 months of adaptation time before he'll really start to show what he can do, and that 6 months takes him to the summer, and at that point the decision's got to be made as to whether or not he thinks that he wants to stick around for another season. Part of me thinks we'll get him used to the Premier League, and then he'll go sign for Manchester United or something like that, and they will be the ones reaping the benefit next year. At the same time, with Odegaard looking good, with Mikey Moore coming through this season, and I still want to see more of Mikey Moore, we're not really short of left-sided options, and perhaps it would be better to spend that kind of money on someone like, was it Delap? Delap is probably the guy you look at and go, yeah, he'll be available in the summer and could well score us quite a number of goals, because he's hardworking, obviously got a decent goal-scoring touch. There's players from pretty much all of the sides we've played recently who you could look at and go, yeah, I really wouldn't mind them. I mean, from yesterday's game, the two players I looked at and I was like, I will take Huijsen and I will take Kerkez at Tottenham Hotspur every single day of the week, because both of them looked excellent. But it's just so much to do for the
again, it emphasised the fact that the Bournemouth manager is very good at these players, and he's happy to use young players and develop them. You know, so it makes them sort of an ideal fit for Tottenham.
No, I think Iraola will be a very good manager for someone. I just, if people are going to talk him up, then you got to look and say, right, what are the issues? He's had almost as big an injury list as Tottenham and playing considerably fewer games. He's gave up a 2-goal lead yesterday. He's not used to playing with a squad in European competitions, and same thing people complained about Ange. He doesn't know about the pressures at the top end of a big club like Tottenham Hotspur. So there's really the criticisms that people pointed out, exactly the same ones can be pointed at Iraola. The only difference is he's managed in the Premier League before.
We could always go for Nuno Espirito Santo.
I think you've had 2 seasons of what's his name again? The Bournemouth manager,
Andoni Iraola.
We've had 2 seasons of him now, and you can see how Bournemouth have developed. And as I said, keeping emphasising the fact, I see Bournemouth, see Fulham, and they both look well coached. So regardless of whatever else, their limitations, and we don't know what they can do, but the players are coached, and that which is something I used to remember about Poch. You could see the players were coached. He made players better players. And I'm sure that's the case with Ange. That's for sure.
Oh, I think Ange has made players better. I struggle to think of a player who's, well, no, that's not quite true. I was going to say I struggle to think of a player who's regressed, but we've already talked about Bentancur and Bissouma today. But, you know, the players who have been brought in during his time, I think he's made them pretty much all better. It would be difficult to argue otherwise, I think. Maybe Dragoshin could be a point of contention on that, but we'll see. The next game we are going to be coming back afterwards is, of course, the Fulham game. You were just talking about Fulham. We're playing them at 12:30 on the 16th of March, and we've got a lovely long break after that. We've got 2 weeks of break between the next game. It's like we're playing every 3 to 4 days, and then suddenly we've got 2 weeks of break. It's mental how that happens. So we'll be back on the 17th of March. Before we go, guys, is there anything you would like to say just to round things up for the evening? Let's start with Austin. Anything from you?
No, I think we've covered most of the things, Stu. I just want to say, I posted it in cards earlier. If we lose this game on Thursday, then I think I'm done with the management. I don't see patterns of play. I don't see us adapting, and I'm finally coming to the end of my tether. I've been as positive as possibly can be for the last 6 months, let's say, but I'm coming to the end of my tether.
Very positive indeed.
I'm like the minded like you, Austin. I feel the same, to be honest. But carry on.
No. It's your turn to whinge. I've had my whinge.
No.
Yeah, John, your final words.
I agree with what Austin says. I mean, let's see what happens on Thursday. Let's hope we're all pleasantly surprised and we move on and stuff like that. But, let's just see what happens. I mean, I don't think any of us have been particularly optimistic tonight. And after the last 2 games, is there any surprise in that, really?
Well, I mean,
I
guess the surprising thing is that I
want to see us come out and actually go for it on Thursday, whereas we never seem to go for it.
That's what I want to see on Thursday night. The funny thing I'm going to
see a bit of panache
is we're waiting to hear who the February manager of the month is going to be, and Ange Postecoglou was nominated, and he actually had the best record of any Premier League manager in February. So.